Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alec Aberna. That's Matt Morrison right there, also known Ricky Vaughn right down there in the corner. Clark Griswold on the other side. He's got the Griswold Blackhawks jersey on. I'm not currently wearing my Ricky Vaughn jersey. Sometimes I do. Not today, though.
But
Matt,
we wanted to change it.
Matt, we finally got you back in the show after yesterday's technical difficulties there. Glad to have you back. Wish we could have talked to you a little bit more yesterday. How about before we get in, we'll let you finish your Steelers rant from yesterday real quick here. I'll give you like 2 minutes. So get 2:03, finish up your Steelers rant here.
Man. What did I leave off?
I don't know. You were yelling about T.J. Watt or something, maybe?
T.J. Watt was going off. We could talk about that. That guy won the game. I gave him the Beast of the Week yesterday. I mean, he saved the game.
Beast Head of the Week? Yeah, it was great.
I mean, Najee Harris looked pretty good, running the ball, getting a lot of carries. Ben didn't look too bad. I mean, he still slung it a couple times over people's heads.
Could have been better, but
Could have been better, but hey, we still won, and that's what matters. So...
All right, cool. Well, let's get into today's show. We'll start things off the way we always do. Question of the day from yesterday. Which team holds the record for most rushing first downs in a season? The answer to that one was C, the New England Patriots. Back in 1978, had 181 rushing first downs. That is number one all-time. Question of the day for today, the 19th of October. Man, we're closing in. This year's blowing by, man.
Yeah, it is.
Which year did the NFL add the Panthers and the Jaguars as expansion teams? 1979, 1987, 1991, 1995, or 2000? Leave your answer somewhere. Come on back tomorrow, and make sure to check us out on Instagram as well, at Casual Sports Report, and check out, obviously, YSN and all their socials as well. Matt and I are getting back into some Instagram game. You'll see us at games. We're going to post some stuff from there, pictures from our events. We're going to start clipping stuff from the show. So our social medias for this podcast is going to start getting out a little bit more, thanks to our Instagram social media manager, Clark Griswold, over here.
TikTok as well.
Yeah, TikTok as well. So we're getting out there. We want you fans to have something else you can go to when we're not on. So make sure to tune in every day, though. But if you miss something, check us out there. Something interesting might pop on there. Matt, we're talking a little bit NFL today to start off this show. We're going to do some high school recap as well from the list last Friday and Saturday. Plus, we're going to talk some NBA stuff. They start tonight, so we're going to get into a little bit of that here. So let's get right on top of this show. Brookfield, close game this past weekend.
Yeah.
Garfield just came in unstoppable. I mean, this is an undefeated team, and this is the closest anybody has come to beating the Garfield G-Men other than Warren JFK, who also lost by 14. So the fact that Brookfield loses this game 31-14 and scored 17 points in this second half, they nearly closed into an upset. It was 24-17 in those final few minutes. Garfield just got that touchdown, really sealed the deal last minute. But I think Brookfield has to be impressed with the way they performed in this game. I know they want to win, and I know all the players are going to be like, oh, I could have done better. We should have done better. We should have done this. We should have done that. This is a team that I was also playing with a ton of injuries. A lot of their top guys out. A lot of top guys even playing injured, battling through stuff, especially at this point in the season, and this was a physical game, and you knew it. But with that win, you saw Garfield clinch the MFAC grades here in their first season. Well, what were your takeaways from this game with Anthony Dema and that demolition crew?
I mean, he looked great in that first half, but Brookfield really caught up to him in that second half and kind of stopped him, and they managed to get another touchdown to kind of seal the deal a little bit. But Brookfield was coming. They converted an onside kick, and they were coming, but I think the main story was their defense. I mean, Garfield's defense stopped Brookfield like 4 times when Brookfield was driving past midfield, and they just couldn't finish it off. And that's how Garfield won the game, because if Brookfield's offense was spot on, it would be Brookfield.
Well, I think we even kind of mentioned that during the game. All the hype this season has been on Dema and that offense, and him putting up over 1,200 yards now on the season. He has been absolutely unreal, but I think we started giving credit to that defense in that game just for stopping Brookfield. I mean, Brookfield is a team that has been great but so far in the season, but now you look at their last 2 games, and it's been a quiet end of the season stretch for Brookfield so far. And look, they go scoreless in that first half, then you go back to the LeBray game. They went 6 straight quarters without scoring a touchdown before finally scoring in that third quarter against Garfield this past weekend. So I think you have to look at this. They need this champion game on the road this coming Friday. to really get some offense going before they hit playoffs. They're still in contention. They're still going to be there come the following weekend, and they're going to be making the playoff matchups. But I think this is a great game. You're talking a Division 5 or Division 6 team in Garfield, Division 6 Brookfield, Division 5 Garfield going up against each other. And I think this is a matchup you look at next season when Garfield doesn't have Dema. I think this is one that Brookfield takes. You look at the strength of each team's defense, and Brookfield only losing, 3 or 4 seniors this coming season. Next year, this is going to be an even better matchup, and without Dema in that, which might be the deciding factor for this game, I think this is one you look at next season for Brookfield. They could potentially take this one. I believe it'll be a road game if they end up playing, but it'll be a great matchup for the next coming years. A lot of great talent.
They're going to have Colin Murphy come back. They're going to have Ryan Tetrick's coming back. So that defense is...
Donovan Pulaski will be back. Yeah. Jones will be back. Withrow... No, I think Wither's a senior. Christian Davis on offense will be there. I mean, they're losing...
Kaden Carrilla.
Right, they're only losing 4 guys, and I think it's Beckstein, Dave Pulowski, TJ Laverty, and Xavier Withrow. I think that is all the people Brookfields are losing, so they're going to be great these next few seasons. A very bright future for the Warriors, but the season isn't done yet. They can still run the table right now and get these seniors in some deserving spots, along with Keandre Craig, another one going off this season. But Matt, how about our game on on Saturday? Valley Christian. Scoreless at the halftime against Wellsville. They rally in the second half, make it 19-0 to take home that win. A much-needed one for Valley Christian. And, we got pulled down to the locker rooms by Andy Hake. He was giving us the same speech he was giving to his team. We talked to their big guy, their big wide receiver as well, and Bashan Gurley, who was nursing an injury. We gave out the player of the game to Cam Davenport in that one for his second half rally. How did you feel about that game for Valley Christian? I mean, they came out kind of flat in that first half, and Andy Hake really lit a fire into them at halftime, and it worked. Defense, though, I think you got to give credit to defense here. And I mean, they were yelling a lot about individual play. Defense for Valley Christian stood tall that entire game.
Oh, absolutely.
Waiting for the offense.
If my little post-game article that I write for YSN, I added in there that, their first half, Valley Christian was just not that team we've seen.
It really seemed like every other play was a turnover as well. With the temperature dropping for the first time this season. Yeah.
Turnovers and penalties, and when we were in that... Put it, and they came out there. We seen him storm out of that locker room. We were right down there with him, and he was still getting them pumped up, getting them going. And I'm like, this is gonna be a different second half, and it was. It definitely was. Cam Davenport and John Trell Mixon and John Qual Pabellon. Those guys, they were doing that the whole game. I think they just upped it up even more after that. That any given Sunday speech by Andy Hake, the guy sounded just like Al Pacino. Talking about, he wasn't talking about inches, but it sounded just like him. And they really took off. They did pretty good. Bashan Gurley didn't really get on. Like you said, he was dealing with the injury. Still an electric player. But you look at the other guys. Raekwon Bell was really taking off as well with Cam Davenport. So, and they found a way. They got the guys going.
Don't forget about Philip Spradley. He had a big game as well.
Spradley as well, yeah.
He was him and Raekwon Bell were pretty much those top 2 wide receivers in that game. And I think I'd give a lot of credit to everybody stepping up when Vashawn Gurley, he was out there playing with an injury, but obviously playing with the injury, sometimes you just aren't at 100%, and you try and give it your all, and it just sometimes doesn't work. I think that's kind of what happened. Hopefully he's back, or they give him a rest week against East Palestine this coming Friday. But, Andy Hake, he's never finished worse than 7-3 in his entire career, and he's got a chance right now to finish up the season 6-2 next week with a game against currently, I believe, 0-win East Palestine Bulldogs team down there, same place where YSN's located. So, it could be a big potential upset for East Palestine next week to kind of lay the upset on Andy Hake's fantastic career so far.
Yeah, it could be. You got to watch. It's potentially a sleeper game, but
potentially East Palestine, they've been struggling through the season. They've had a lot of cancelizations and reschedulings. They're coming off a tough game against Southern this past week, in which they lost 63-14. It's an offense that's been sputtering along in the season. If the offense can find something, it'll be hard going up against Brookfield's defense because you look back, this East Palestine team played Wellsville. Wellsville won that game 35-0. So it's a team that in Wellsville that scored 35 against Palestine and shut them out, but let 19 up against Valley Christian and then got blanked on their side around. So it'll be a tough matchup for East Palestine, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're going to have their hands full.
All right, Matt, how about we get into some NFL talk? Your secondary team, you didn't get a chance to talk about them yesterday. You did pick them, though, in our NFL pick'ems over the weekend. Yeah, you were the only one that went with the Bills. I originally wanted to go them, but I think Mike swayed me around going the other way here. I was looking down and stuff, and you know what? I just had a feeling that the Titans were going to pull this one out, and they nearly did it. This was a game that almost went to overtime, but Derrick Henry, 7.2 yards per carry for him. Talk about an absolute menace to society. Just domination. Domination. One word for him.
1 week, I just want to say, 1 week this Titans team is, absurd. They look like they can win the Super Bowl. And then the next week, it looks like they're playing JV high school football. Like, you beat a good team like the Bills, but you lose to the Jets,
Right, so the Jets only win as well.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's going to hurt them in the end. They're inconsistent, but they were very consistent last night. Derrick Henry really, took them down the train tracks. Just
that it did. Derrick Henry had a great game, and I think the team followed suit behind it, especially being out with so many wide receivers injured. And it was A.J. Brown out with food poisoning. He played a little bit, kind of came in and out, but was never really in there the whole time. He still got 7 receptions for 91 yards, but he was also playing with food poisoning from Chipotle, by the way. He said that team wouldn't be getting his endorsement deals anytime soon. So Julio Jones also a big part of that offense, along with Nick Westbrook. Derrick Henry even caught a few passes, but a team that has to start playing more consistent, obviously. I think you talk about it every season. The inconsistencies with Ryan Tannehill. 1 week, you're right, he looks like Tom Brady. The next week, he's playing like Big Ben. Had to throw a little bit of a dig out there. Come on. You say it every other week. Steelers win. Oh, go Big Ben. Steelers lose. He needs to retire.
No.
I had to throw a little bit of a dig out there, Matt.
I guess. You could have said like Jared Goff or somebody. Why'd you gotta go Big Ben?
Well, no, Goff almost always puts up stats.
Oh, okay, that's true.
Goff puts up stats. Whether they win or lose the game, I don't think they do, but, he's also on the Lions, so what can you really say?
Yeah, that is true.
How about this one? The Jacksonville Jaguars pick up their first win with quarterbacks in Trevor Lawrence and head coach Urban Meyer. They couldn't do it in the States. They had to fly over the pond into London there in Tottenham Stadium to be able to pick up their first win over the return of Tua time in Miami. They lose at 23-20. Big game, though, I think, for Trevor Lawrence, finally getting that win. James Robinson, 17 carries on the ground. Marvin Jones, 100 receiving yards to the air. Jamal Agnew with 78 yards to the air. Laviska Shenault, 54 yards to the air. So this was a great game, I think. A total package for this offense in Jacksonville, finally finding a way to win, and I think it was much needed. They haven't really done much on the season so far to show that they were a good team or have any sort of positives. A lot of positives, though, they could take away from this against the Miami squad, who, despite the record, I think is a better team than that record shows, and especially now with Tua back at the helm, and Tua in this game had a great one, 33, 47, 329 yards, 2 touchdowns, but no rush game to complement him. And if they have a rush game at all, they probably win this ball game, but they didn't. Mike Gesicki, former Penn State tight end, 115 yards in this game. Jalen Waddle, 2 touchdowns with 70 yards as well.
Yeah, a lot of people expected Tua to kind of stumble a little bit when he came back. Maybe he didn't.
He had 1 pick, but that's it. You live with the quarterback throwing a pick every game. I think you can live with that. A guy throwing 17 picks on the season, I think you live with that.
Ryan Tannehill threw one last night.
Right.
Ben Roethlisberger throws him. Baker Mayfield throws him. It happens. Yeah. But,
wish he'd stop throwing him so much.
Yeah, you could honestly just go with the Jaguars and Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence was just sick of losing and just put everything into it, and the kicker had a pretty good kick, to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was important for the Jaguars, but I think you do look at this game right now, and I just think it's funny that you take two teams out of Florida, fly them up to the United Kingdom in London right there, and finally the Jaguars win one. I'm just interested to see if they can come back and do it in the States now. They can do it out of the country, but can you do it here in front of actual football fans? Matthew, right, Matt, the kicker you were referring to there for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
But, I think an important game for the Jacksonville Jaguars, important for Trevor Lawrence, important for Urban Meyer. They all needed this win badly. And as you said, just tired of losing. I mean, it's a rough schedule coming up. They've had a rough schedule so far. I mean, you look at since the start of the season, they start out with the Texans in a game where it was a completely different Texan squad. That's when you had Tyrod Taylor out there balling out of control every other play. They lose that by 16 points. Then they go up against, at the time, a Broncos squad that was on fire to start the season. Then they go up against the best team in football right now in the Arizona Cardinals. Then they're going up against the 4-win Bengals who have, had 4 wins all last season. They already have 4 so far. And of course they go up against the Titans the week before that, week after that. And then finally they get a game that I think they're finally on a team with an even playing field and they pick out the win. So I think you look at right now, Jacksonville, they're better than their record says because of who they face. They've had a lot of tough matchups, and the road doesn't get easier for them. They have the Seahawks and the Bills coming up in the next 2 weeks before they take on the Colts, 49ers, and Falcons the 3 after that. So it's a tough road, and they're going to need to start putting something together, and we'll see if it just becomes a tank year. And I think the real question marks comes with how long does Jacksonville stick with Urban Meyer after, all the controversies this season and the fact that he's going to come out with a losing season. I don't want them to, personally, I don't want them to kick him out after a one-and-done-esque season. I think you kind of let him put something together, and we always talk about it in college, right? You get 3 years. 3 years is your limit. NFL, I think you get 2. And I think that's the facts about it. You get about 2 years, see what you're made of, see if you can make this at the NFL level, especially with a team as bad as Jacksonville. And if you find a quarterback, you start working from there. You got your back, you got some wide receivers, you got some guys on defense. Now go find the rest in the draft. That's the first real test, I think, of a head coach is who you can bring in the draft and who you can develop from there on out. Obviously, I think you look at his first-year draft, besides, the obvious fall in Travis Etienne out of Clemson, who everybody had highly rated. I don't think you can pick against him for picking, Travis Etienne, even though he had a jacked running back room and guys like James Robinson and Carlos Hyde ahead of him. I think you live with the fact he takes a guy like Etienne, a guy that, Trevor Lawrence has played with for his entire career at Clemson and loves to play with. You brought in somebody he was comfortable with, and that's important when you're working with a young quarterback. So I don't think you fault him for taking Etienne, and obviously Etienne with an injury right now, so he doesn't even have the chance to get reps or play in practice.
Etienne can also be transformed.
Okay, I think one of our internets here have cut out. I'm not sure if it's mine or yours, Matt. Okay, so I think it might be Matt's internet out there. That's okay. We're still working around. I'm not sure which one of us is live at the moment. So, okay, so I think it's Matt that's the one going out. He's actually just across the hall from me, so I can hear him talking down the other way. But, I mean, I think you look on the other side right now, the Miami Dolphins, they're not a bad team. This is a group as well that has had a rough schedule going on so far. They pick up their first win in week 1 against the Patriots. Then they obviously have to go up against a fantastic Bills squad, and then they have a rough matchup against, and at the time, a great Raiders squad, and that one goes down to overtime. So I don't think you really fault either one of these teams for being where they are in the season. Now it's time to find out who you are for the rest of the season, as Clark Griswold now going to join us back one more time. All right, go ahead. Pick up where you left off there talking about ETN and this Jaguar squad.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hopefully we don't cut out again here. Alec, did you cut out too?
No, I think I was there, so people just saw my face kind of, playing with eyebrows over here, waiting for you to come back in. So.
Oh, jeez. So I think Etienne can be put into a wide receiver spot. Definitely, I think he did that a little bit in college. He played a little bit of receiver, and I mean, they definitely should think about drafting a receiver too. And
A lot of great guys
building
coming
off
out
that.
here. Chris
Yeah.
Olave. Get Lawrence with Olave. Great.
That'd be great. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right, how about next game moving on here? Another 10 minutes off the clock for us. I still own you. Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers screaming at the fans just after the touchdown in a game they win 24-14 over Justin Fields at home. Fields in the game, I think we'll look at him real quick. 43 yards on the ground, 7.2 yards per carry there. 16 of 27 through the air, 174 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I think you live with that right now with Justin Fields in this offense. This is an offense that hasn't found themselves at all, like ever in this last, 4 or 5 years. I think the fact that you're getting anything out of the ground game with Khalil Herbert right now, 97 yards for him on just 19 carries and a touchdown, I think there's a lot of good coming out of the Chicago Bears' future. They just have to be patient. And I know we say that every time in teams like Chicago, they have been patient. They have been waiting for something to happen. But I think this is one of those moments. It's just like, just take a deep breath, step aside real quick, and just look at what you have right now and see where you can be down the line in maybe a year or two. I mean, Justin Fields clearly isn't showing the Joe Burrow level jump in year 1. Wait till year 2. Year 2 is when you look at a quarterback and say, now what are you doing? Now that you've been a full season in there, a full off season, what can you do for me? So just wait a minute right now if you're the Chicago Bears fans. On the other side, though, if you're Green Bay, you haven't lost since that first embarrassment against the Saints in week 1, and they have been on fire. They've done everything right. I mean, you look at A-Rod in this game, 17 of 23, perfect. 195 yards on that, great. 2 touchdowns, I'll live with that. Aaron Jones on the ground and A.J. Dillon combined once again for 135 yards, and they've been just unstoppable. Devontae Adams through the air, 89 yards. Aaron Jones and getting something on through the air as well, receiving touchdown, and along with Alan Lazar getting a receiving touchdown in this ball game. It doesn't really feel like this Packers squad can do anything wrong, and I think they get 4 sacks in this game against potentially the worst offensive line in football with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say much about that Chicago Bears offensive line, and that's how Justin Fields fits with that, because he can scramble and get out of danger pretty much.
He's been having to scramble himself out of danger a lot this season, and I think it's a similar situation as I was saying last year with the Bengals with Joe Burrow at the helm. Justin Fields won't be a bust because of his own accord. He'll be a bust because of the offensive line, because he's going to get busted up, much like Joe Burrow did last year. We're seeing a great year 2 jump out of Joe Burrow though this season, so I think you go, all right, he kind of, this team went out, they got an offensive line for him a little bit better, they got him some other weapons, and they improved their defense, and now they're a team that's potentially contending for the AFC North this season. Chicago Bears have to do the same thing.
They do.
Just avoid injuries right now with Justin Field. If something's looking like it's happening, because he's already had a minor injury on the season. If something looked like it's going wrong, pull him out of there. If you're losing by 30 points, pull him out. It doesn't matter at that point. Keep your guys safe and let him use a full offseason of actual preparation and not rehab like Joe Burrow had to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Just keep him out of the danger zone, keep him healthy, and, look to draft offensive linemen or acquire offensive linemen in this next year's offseason.
I mean, this is a great defense for Chicago, but they frankly need more weapons on offense, and obviously injuries have kind of eaten them up as well, the running back position and some other stuff for them so far in the season. But I think a bright future lays ahead for a team like Chicago. But on the other hand, Green Bay, who's going to stop them, right? I mean, you lose week 1 against the Saints in what seems like the biggest fluke we've had all season, and then from here on out, they've won every single time they've hit the field. I mean, a lot of close games. They aren't blowing teams out besides the Lions, but they're winning. At the end of the day, if you can win the NFL, that is all that matters, and you look up for them. Washington next week. I think that's probably an easy game for them. That leads into the hardest game of the season. I think what everyone's eyes need to be on, Packers, Cardinals, Thursday Night Football next week. That'll be a big point of discussion next week's Thursday show. We'll talk Thursday Night Football a little bit between our college football segments. So, big potential matchup coming up for the Packers. But Matt, how about I ask you this question? Do you think right now Green Bay is a contender?
I think it'd be absurd to say no. They're not a contender. They have Aaron Rodgers, and like you said, that game one was a fluke, shaking the rust off, shaking the drama off those shoulder pads a little bit and said, you know what, I'm here, let's win. And that's what they've been doing.
Now, I think the only question mark you have of whether or not they're contenders, strength of opponent right now. Obviously, the win over the Lions, expected. The close win over the 49ers, I think it's okay. You'll live with that. 10-point win over the Steelers, I think you want a little bit more out of that one. And then I think they live with a 3-point win in overtime over the Bengals, considering how strong that Bengals squad has shown that they actually are. But then only a 10-point win over the Bears. It seems like they're on the edge of being a contender, right? Yeah. They're right there, and it just feels like they need to start playing just a little bit better. And I think we'll really get to see how they play against a decent offense in Washington and then a great team in the Cardinals. And then right after that, they take on the Chiefs. So a lot of big games coming up for Green Bay, and I think beginning of the season we talked we're going to find out who these teams were by about week 4 or 5. For the Green Bay Packers, we're going to find out who they are in these next 4 weeks. Because obviously I said Washington, the Cardinals, and the Chiefs. After that, though, they also have the Seahawks, the Vikings, and the Rams. So I think some big tests coming up for Green Bay, and they might look 5-1 right now. We might be looking back at this in 5 weeks and saying the same thing we said about the Raiders and the Broncos. Oh boy, were we wrong. Because even after that, they then have the Ravens and the Browns as well. So road doesn't get any easier for Green Bay. They had the easy part of their schedule, so we'll see what they can do from here on out. But Matt, how about next game up? I know you don't like them, but my oh my, they just slaughtered the Chargers 34-6, and Lamar Jackson didn't really have to do anything. He threw 2 picks in this game, went 19-27, 167 yards and a touchdown. He didn't even have a rushing touchdown. He had 51 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about the defense for the Ravens? They're were fantastic in this game.
They're insane. They have a lot of good guys on that defense that know how to come out and do their jobs.
The Ravens had more rushing yards than passing yards this week. 187 yards on the ground, 140 through the air. Averaged 4.8 yards per play as well, and 27 first downs, 6 of 11 on third down efficiency. It's just fantastic. I mean, they allowed 3 sacks and they had a punt twice, but they had a pretty much clean game besides Lamar Jackson's 2 interceptions. I think you just have to give credit right now to this defensive side of things for the Ravens, being able to just close down this Chargers squad that has frankly been fantastic on the season. And obviously, you have to look to Justin Tucker. 10 points, on his own, including a 52-yarder, 2 for 2 on field goals. He was all over the place, and he capitalized when the team needed his help. Ground game, obviously got in their touchdowns with Le'Veon Bell, Latavius Murray, and Devontae Freeman. So despite the fact that they don't have one total guy, they're finding something getting a few of these older guys involved.
Yeah, they are. And, you were talking about that defense. How about that Anthony Averett? I think that's how you say his name. The guy had like 5 solo tackles. I haven't even heard of this guy until this game. And, of course you have, that Bynes guy that's pretty good as well on defense. He had 3 tackles, but
I think Matt cut out again here.
Championship at LSU. So this defense is no joke at all. But, yeah, bringing in the older guys to get stuff done. And we've seen that a lot for a bunch of teams. Older players still coming in and producing. A.J. Green, and
Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. And you could just say that
Tampa
right
Bay
there.
Team. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, Matt, before we go back into NFL here, we got a comment coming in from the Irishman on YouTube. Hubbard Eagles redemption game this Friday versus South Range. 2 undefeated teams coming into that one and 2 great teams. What do you think of that one in football?
Hubbard Eagle redemption this Friday, South Range. Oh, man. Hubbard Eagles, they're tough. They're a tough team. Their running back, doesn't their running back have I think he broke some type of record, a rushing record or something. I think I saw something.
Yeah, Caffey has 2,220 yards on the season with 33 touchdowns as well. So, yeah, I mean, Hubbard has been fantastic this season. And I think on the other side, you look at Dylan Dominguez. I mean, he's doing the same thing on the other side of this. And you look at this football game coming up, 9-0, 9-0. Someone's got to lose, and unfortunately, it has to be one of these 2 teams because they just have been both outstanding. And I think it's going to be an interesting one on YSN this coming Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll probably have Anthony Romo on that call. Are they in Hubbard?
I believe they're in South Range.
Oh, so then it's got to be our own. Wouldn't DJ be calling that game?
I'm not sure who's going to be on the call for that one this coming Saturday.
Okay,
but let's flip it back here, NFL.
Yeah, go back,
on the
yeah.
Chargers' offensive side of things, no rush game to speak of whatsoever. Austin Eckler, 6 carries, 7 yards. Joshua Kelly, 4 carries, 7 yards. Couldn't find anywhere to go. Keenan Allen, obviously the number one wide receiver for them, was only averaging 10 yards per reception on 5 receptions. Austin Eckler didn't do much. Mike Williams couldn't do much. There was just nowhere to go for this Chargers offense. They were just being, lit up all game long.
That they were. I mean, Justin Herbert, almost 200-yard passing, 1 interception now. He got sacked twice. They got to him and they pressured him. And, normally we see Austin Eckler taking off and his footprints are all over the field. This week, no way. He only had 7 yards.
Yeah, and I think both teams have a very favorable schedule coming up. Obviously, Ravens, though, start off next week with a hard matchup hosting the Bengals this coming Sunday. But after that, they go Vikings, Dolphins, Bears before they take on the Browns, Steelers, and Browns in 3 consecutive weeks before Packers, Bengals, Rams, Steelers. So a tough end of the season, but I think right now a good stretch for the Ravens to improve on that record and start garnishing some playoff contendership and getting that ranking settled before they hit that hard final stretch of the season. And we'll see if they can get back from anybody back from injuries or if they lose more, because they just lost their all-pro left tackle earlier today. Here was announced by Schefter, I believe, that he was gone for the season. So a big loss. And on the other side, Chargers are in a great spot, I have a feeling. They host the Patriots next week, then face the Eagles, Vikings, Steelers, Broncos. So I think it's a good stretch of 5 games for them as well here coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So, and a team like Pittsburgh, I know I'm probably showing my bias a little bit, but I mean, 3-3, they're coming back. They're really they have a bye week, and then it'll be the game. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, 1 o'clock. So that'll really show
who the worst team in the AFC North will be.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That game has the potential to be really great or really bad.
Or really bad. Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be an in-between. It's either going to be great game or, oh my God, please make this stop.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on from that game. One more NFL game before we hit the NBA discussion to finish things off with a little bit of MLB and NHL check-ins as well. Minnesota Vikings overtime with the Carolina Panthers 34-28. Kirk Cousins gets the win on an outstanding day for him and Dalvin Cook. 33 of 48, 373 yards and 3 touchdowns for KC. In DC on the ground, 29 carries, 140 yards and a touchdown. Adam Thielen, 126 receiving yards on 11 receptions with a touchdown as well. This was just an outstanding offensive performance from Minnesota. And I think you kind of take a look back at this game, and it's everything we've been saying so far about the Vikings. Kirk Cousins has been great, but no one else has come along with him. Finally, Dalvin Cook comes along with him. You get Thielen involved. He comes along with him. And the defense makes a great stand down at the end of it. And I think you just got to go, great job, Vikings, to be able to close this game out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Vikings team is definitely starting to kind of be a contender. I mean, they've had then now they've had ones that are starting to go their way, and they're looking kind of scary. I mean, they almost beat the Browns. They lost to the Browns by 7, just barely. I mean, they're there. Kirk Cousins.
If you look at that, they've had a lot of games come right down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean, and now they're 3-3 now. So there's a lot of those 3-3 teams that are starting to show, hey, we're not bad. We're not. They were 2 weeks ago 1-3. Now they're 3-3. They're starting to come around, and the Vikings. I mean, they have the team to do it, and I really believe in in Kirk Cousins. I think that he's the guy that fits their system, and you can't really say anything bad about Dalvin Cook. The guy's a very productive running back, and if you look at their losses, I mean, they lost to Cincinnati. That was their first game, and that Cincinnati Bengals team is looking lights out, looking like, hey, they might win the AFC North. They just might, And then they lost to the Cardinals, who are still undefeated right now, and they only lost to them by 1. Okay, and then then the Browns only by a touchdown. The rest they have won. These are close losses. Even the Bengals losses, they lost by 3 in overtime.
And I think we have to flip this over to the Panthers side of things before we move on and finish out this show with some NBA talk. Chiva Hubbard, I love what I've seen at him so far in the season. Coming in for C-Mac, who's been out injured. 61 yards for him, 3.8 yards per carry and a touchdown. I love that. It's been great for Chuba this season. And you're not expecting him to put up McCaffrey's numbers. Instead, he's putting up Chuba numbers. You know what to expect out of a guy like him. He's getting you 60-plus yards every week, and he's been up there near 100 a few times already. Sam Darnold, though, played awful. I mean, 17 of 41, a touchdown and an interception for him. It just looked like the Jets again.
Seeing those ghosts.
Seeing ghosts of the Vikings, apparently. Some old Viking ghosts. I mean, it was, frankly, I think you can pretty much say, a crap performance for Sam Darnold. And you look at their defense, Keith Taylor had 10 tackles in this game, but then you look down the line, no one could get on a sack for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins in no way is a mobile quarterback who's going to burn you with his legs at any point. So I think the big adjustment now for the Panthers second half of the season, find a way to get some pressure on somebody because you have to alleviate the strain of the offense because this offense without Christian McCaffrey and an untested Sam Darnold, it's going to struggle if you can't make this a game where they can put up 28 points and win the game. In most circumstances, if this offense is putting up 28 points and the defense plays well, they win the football game.
Yeah.
Defense played bad too, so defense has to play better for the Panthers, and I think you just look up against the Vikings. You look up against the Vikings offense, who frankly has been pretty great on the season when it comes to putting up big numbers with terms of Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, I think right now might be a dark horse for the MVP candidate.
Maybe.
He's put up great numbers all season long, and I think if anybody wants to try and discredit that, I think frankly they're wrong. He has been great this season, and you know he's got a great squad going right now. In a potential Minneapolis miracle coming up again.
Maybe. We shall see.
We shall see. But, Matt, let's tune things into the NBA with about 23 minutes left here this afternoon. They start tonight. Two big games, and two games that potentially come down to the end of the season could finish things off as well. I'm talking about some conference championship matchups. Brooklyn Nets take on the Milwaukee Bucks tonight, 7:30 TNT to start the season. I'm not sure if Kyrie will be available. It's being played in Milwaukee, so I imagine he'll be playing due to the COVID restrictions only blocking him from playing like in New York and LA. So I think he'll be able to play here in this matchup. So it could be a big start to the season right away to get things kicked off. What do you think about this one coming up?
It could be, and Kevin Durant is, he's holding a grudge. His foot was over that line, and he would have made that. They would have won that series. If he,
he had the dramatic three-pointer. Yeah.
And he's holding that grudge. He's been holding that for a couple of months, 3 months or so now.
Yeah, and I think you look at that with holding the grudge too, and the Bucks and Antetokounmpo received their championship rings and raised the banner tonight, and I know normally when teams do that, they're a little too focused on raising the banner, and they tend to lose these championship banner games right out of the gate. So potentially a big chance right now for Brooklyn. Yeah, just happened in hockey. It happened to Los Angeles last year after they won the championship. They go raise it up there. The fans are back, and they came out flat-footed and lost that game, and it wasn't even anywhere close. So it's a chance right now, Milwaukee, if they come out flat, Brooklyn's going to take it, and it's obviously not very important, just the first game of the season, but I think this is one of those games you then look at down the line, right, as one of those, come playoff time, who's going to win this matchup? It becomes a point of conversation, but not necessarily important for the records.
Yeah, you definitely have to say that. You kind of cut out
game
there
ones don't
bit.
necessarily matter here to start out the season. The first 10, 15 games, it's a feeling out process. Once you hit 20, you know who you are, and you know if you're going to be there at the end of the season pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. And this Bucks team, I mean, they didn't have Kyrie Irving last year either, and they nearly made it all the way. So, right. I mean, I wouldn't be pouting too much over Kyrie Irving very much.
I don't think they're going to have to worry about it. But how about some other guys returning to action tonight? You have the Golden State Warriors, return of Klay Thompson. If he ends up playing in this one, it could, it could be great. 10 p.m. tonight, they take on the old new school look Lakers. The old look Lakers in a great match, Golden State versus Los Angeles. to end out the night here. Matt, what do you think of this one? They got the old boys in Los Angeles and a former dynasty in Golden State. We'll see if they can return to form here. It's the first time we've seen this squad back together pretty much since those title runs against Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, the last time Klay Thompson played was that finals that they lost to the Raptors.
The season after, right?
2019.
Yeah.
That's like 3 years now? 3 years ago now.
I think 2
Something
years.
like that. Two years. Good full 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's been out for a while. Change.
And I tell you something right now. If he played like he did, I mean, I think they lost that finals because he got hurt. If Klay Thompson was in that finals, they would have won.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been saying that over the last few years, and I think this is the potential, much as it's the redemption game for Hubbard this coming Friday against Southrange. This is a redemption moment, redemption season, I think, for Golden State. They've been kind of the butt of the joke recently, especially down with the Cavs, both the, two of the worst teams in the NBA these last 2 seasons with the loss of Klay Thompson. And I think it's kind of been hurting Steph.
And
Curry's,
Curry
was out too one of those seasons, and he came back and kind of played in between. Didn't really have the feeling he needed to go out and do everything. But I think it gave them some good time to bring in a few other guys. I mean, James Wiseman, I know he's young, and I know he didn't have a great season last year, but I think sophomore season he might get a big jump out of it.
And yeah, he may, and they have other players that are still young that can produce too. I think they have the guy from Michigan. Can't think of his name. I have the roster. Here we go.
Wagner?
Who?
Wagner?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of them, yes. And, where is he? Oh, Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole from Michigan. This guy would make, 30-footers in Michigan. So I think, you got to look at him. And didn't they pick up Iguodala again too?
He may have re-signed. Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. I don't remember. I mean, you still have Draymond Green, who's as physical as ever, and you also have Andrew Wiggins. So I think they have a pretty capable team, and you have a couple bench guys. You got Looney in there that can come in and play backup center.
I think Looney is a great kind of quiet part of this team. He's a very physical center, and he's great around the rim. I mean, a pure shot blocker with him, and he's good at grabbing boards. I think him and James Wiseman with Draymond Green as well being kind of the leader, the focal point of that defensive side of things. I can imagine could turn out a pretty physical season for them.
Yeah, very much so. They kind of gotta look like that old Detroit Pistons bad boys team, but not much physical contact like they did.
Well, Matt, this won't go down in our official prediction record with Mike not being here, but how about we make picks for tonight? First game, Bucks versus Nets. I think I got to go with the Nets in this one with the Banner game and, first championship there.
I have to go there, too.
Yeah, so we're both going to take Nets.
We're going to catch them off guard. Kevin Durant is mad.
I think that's just it, right? It's with the banner, the celebration, all the hype around it, and then on the other side, redemption for the Nets. So I think this is one the Nets take. On the other side of the thing, Golden State, Los Angeles. Who do you think takes this one? LeBron is great out of the gate.
I know he is.
This is the first time we've seen him be able to pretty much take a full season off.
But do you know who owns LeBron?
Only in the finals.
This squad in the finals. So they're back, and he's playing, so he's going to be a threat. Klay Thompson. So I gotta go Warriors. I'd say Warriors take it.
I think it's a slow start for Klay Thompson. I don't think he gets very much. I don't think Steph Curry does much in this game either. I think you see a big game out of somebody else, I think, instead. But I think on the other side of this, I think the Lakers, they had a terrible preseason, but none of their big guys were playing. I think they come out like a loaded gun today, and they absolutely pop off. I think this is a good game to start out the season, and I got the Lakers taking this one. I don't know if they'll be there by the end of the season, but I have a feeling right now it's a good ride to start at least.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I gotta go with the fact. I mean, I hated Golden State for a long time. They beat our team 3 out of 4 times. I still carry that with me every day. They beat us, badly, and
yeah, but we know you love teams that beat Cleveland teams. You're a huge Braves fan.
No,
Yeah, you love the Braves. You've been talking Braves all postseason. I love Freddie Freeman. He's that guy.
Freddie Freeman is my guy.
Exactly. You love the Braves. You love teams that beat Cleveland. You're a Steelers fan. You're a Steelers fan. You're a Braves fan.
Listen.
And now you're talking Golden State. You love teams that beat Cleveland. You can't even start. Yes.
No, I like how they're coming back. They look good. I still hate Golden State. I do. But I don't like the Lakers. Not a LeBron fan.
You're not a LeBron fan? How? You're a Cleveland Cavs fan. How do you not like LeBron?
Just faded away. I don't know. I don't want to go into it right now. We got to talk baseball. We got 15 minutes left.
We still got stuff here in NBA we're going into. Right. How about this one? Who is your, right now, NBA unexpected contender right now? So someone not named, the Nets, the Bucks, the Lakers, Golden State, Phoenix Suns, kind of one of those teams kind of on the cusp, more like a Memphis Grizzlies type squad, potentially even the Warriors this season. You go around Charlotte Hornets, the Pacers, someone unexpected dark horse candidate right now for the NBA championship.
You're probably going to think I'm going to say the Portland Trailblazers, and I want to. But
I know you want to, but I think we both know that they're not.
They're not. They're not. I don't know. Golden State, they're coming around again. We'll know sure enough about them within, what you said, like 20 games. You'll know who's who. But I don't know, maybe like a Sacramento. Oh, you know what? How about the Chicago Bulls? How about the Bulls?
Yeah, they got a lot of players in free agency. They finished 11th in the Eastern Conference, 31-41, so it's not like they were far down as well. And it ended up being a tough Eastern Conference race last year that they were in for quite some time before finally dropping out there in the end, and they were just out. They were on the outside looking in of those play-in games. So I think that's a good potential dark horse right there, Matt.
Yeah, you can also,
pick one from the West.
Yeah, it is. You can also maybe throw, I don't know, maybe the Pacers, maybe. But
Matt, pick a team from the West. You got Chicago in the East, potential from the West.
From the West, I don't know. How about Minnesota Timberwolves, maybe?
That's a dark horse. That's a very, very dark horse. That's so dark, I think they're still in a cave.
Sacramento Kings, maybe?
Okay. I think my Western Conference unexpected team to potentially make it to the NBA Finals. I'd honestly have to go. I love Dallas, but I don't know if you can necessarily say that because they were in that playoff group last year. I think I'm trying to look outside of the playoffs, right? And I think with that, I think you have to go New Orleans Pelicans with Zion Williamson now in his third season. We'll really get to see who he's made of now 3 years into things. You look at LeBron in his first few seasons, that's where all the comparisons have been, right? He played good, but they never really went anywhere. It took him a while to find his footing, and I want to see if Zion can find it right now and really put up those big numbers, put himself in some conversations down at the end of the season, and potentially get a squad into things. So I think New Orleans dark horse out of the West. My dark horse out of the Eastern Conference, I like the Charlotte Hornets.
I like the Charlotte Hornets. I really do. I like Ball. I like, what's his name? Oh,
Gordon Hayward, I think, is there.
Gordon Hayward, and he's from Youngstown.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. Terry Rozier. I love scary Terry Rozier.
Oh, yes. They also have Miles Bridges. Don't forget, he just signed a massive extension.
I like Bridges as well. I like their team,
Not to mention, look at all the rookies they had on their roster last year. Guys like JT Thor, Carr Jones, Kulbaka, Scotty Lewis, Book Knight. They have a ton of talent on this team. PJ Washington is now his third year in the league. Vernon Carey Jr. his second. Ish Smith, a guy that's been in the league for, over a decade now, a dozen years. Kelly Oubre Jr., Cody Martin. There's a lot of guys on this Charlotte squad I think could potentially make a dark horse run. So how about this one now? Who are you looking for to make the biggest jump in their second year here in the NBA? So obviously you had your rookies from last season, Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, LaMelo Ball, Pat Williams, Isaac Okoro, Killian Hayes, Obi Toppin, guys like that. Biggest year two jump for you, Matt. Who are you looking for? Okay, I think you're froze, so I'll go with mine first. My biggest potential dark horse for sophomore of the year, I think I got to look at James Wiseman with the Golden State Warriors. He's got, I think, a good chance right now of potentially making a run with that team, and he's going to have a lot of guys around him that the defenders are going to look at. I think it's going to open up the lanes for him, and I think it potentially opens up some space for him to take this thing and really make a great second year. I know his first season kind of barred a little bit of ankle injuries, I believe, and then he kind of had some in and out, and he wasn't 100% consistent in that entire first season. I think, though, with everybody around him in this second year, I think James Wiseman, a good potential candidate for sophomore of the year. And then my 2021 potential rookie of the year, I think you have to look at a guy who is probably on a better team to do this, and you might have to look at Jonathan Kuminga, also on the Warriors, much to the same as I was saying with a guy like, James Wiseman. He's in a good situation, and he's got great guys around him, but I think you do look at the top of the list, and Cade Cunningham with the Pistons, I think it's interesting to see what he could do. Evan Mobley with the Cavaliers, what he could do. A lot of potential, but I think right now, my potential rookie of the year would have to go to, I'd probably pick the favorite in Cade Cunningham. Matt, why don't you give your sophomore of the year candidate? Who do you think is going to have the biggest second year in the NBA?
Biggest second year in the NBA?
Yeah. I gave it to James Wiseman.
I mean, Ball is balling. I think I could go with Ball. LaMelo Ball.
Okay. All right, and now give me your potential rookie of the year for the NBA, too. We don't have a lot of time, so we'll get into MLB stuff here in a minute.
Yeah, you were talking about Cade Cunningham. I think that kid is good. And they also drafted Luka Garza from Iowa. And I think those guys are going to be turned into a duo, But, I mean, I got to go with you. I think he's going to take it. He's pretty good. I mean,
yeah, he is.
He stunned me in the madness,
We gave an unexpected contender. Matt, who do you think the worst team in the NBA is going to be this season?
How dare you ask me that question?
So, hey, man, I got to answer it too here. Give me just right off the top of your head, who's going to be that worst team in the NBA this season?
In the NBA this season?
Personally, I think Houston Rockets. Either them, no, Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Either
the Thunder don't have anything.
City.
They're in a rebuild mode. I think they're probably they finished.
I don't think
last
it's going to be the Cavs. I think the Cavs are going to be
finished
better.
last. I think they're down there in those bottom five. They're going to be a bottom feeder this season, but I think it's a team that maybe hit 25 wins if we're lucky. Yeah. But I don't think they're the worst team this season. I have a feeling Lakers. Thunder will go under 20.
The Lakers.
All right, whatever, Matt. I don't get why you hate him so much. You love Kobe Bryant.
Joking.
You've been riding him this whole
Kobe
season.
Bryant. Absolutely.
How about projected NBA Finals matchup? Who do you think? Who do you think they're at the end of the season?
You could very well say rematch.
Yeah, you could.
Very well say rematch.
Keep in mind, Golden State's back in the mix this year. A new look Lakers back in the mix this year. Probably not going to be Philadelphia.
Utah,
Phoenix.
Phoenix, man, I'd
Dallas.
Really like to see.
We could see a huge jump out of Luka.
I'd really like to see Phoenix get Chris Paul a ring, and then Devin Booker is this sensational.
DeAndre Ayton. Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton.
All right, so Matt, give me your potential finals matchup here.
Finals matchup. I say I gotta get the Suns. Suns. I say Suns go again, and for the East. I mean, this is tough because, everybody wants... you can say Milwaukee Bucks and probably get by, but I don't want to pick the easy answer.
Go for it.
And...
I think I know who you're going to take.
Brooklyn is there. Brooklyn.
Okay. So you'll go Suns, Brooklyn. We got to move quickly here. Yeah. I'm going to go... I think the matchup a lot of people would want to see, because it was the big trade from just a few seasons ago with the two rookies who have both, gone fantastic. Out of the West, I have Dallas. I love the way they've been coming up, and I think Luka Doncic is a potential future star here. And out of the East, Atlanta Hawks. I want the Hawks and the Mavs. You can very well
say the Hawks. Hawks and Mavs. That'd be a great NBA.
That's what I want to see. I'm not gonna lie. I want to see. I want to see the Cavs there. But if I'm being realistic, I want the Hawks there. I think the most.
I thought you asked who I thought was gonna go. I'd be picking Phoenix either way, but I'd love to see the Bulls come back because they could.
No, Matt, I did say who do you think is going to be in the finals, and I think those are potentially two teams that I think are going to be in the finals.
But I'd really like to see Atlanta get back there. Trae Young.
All right, Matt, here. Let's go into MLB, though, as we have just a few minutes left in the show. The ALCS gave us a great one from last night.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, talk about that one real quickly. It was all over the place for Boston. They win that one 12-3. Just absolutely nuked that ball out of the planet. It was great. I love to see it. Boston is on a tear right now. They're, in a great shot. They're up 2-1. Then you flip it over NLCS tonight. 2-0 series lead right now for the Braves. They hit through it. We talked about them yesterday. So let's just focus it in here on Boston. They have another game tonight, obviously game 4 of their series. What do you think coming off this big win now for Boston? And what are you thinking right now as they pick up the win here? Back-to-back wins now for Boston after dropping game 1 to the Astros.
They're back in Fenway tonight, right?
Yes.
And that's,
Pavetta's on the mound for Boston. Greinke's on the mound for Houston.
Greinke, yeah. And Greinke's still a solid pitcher, but he's getting a little bit up there in age. The guy's been pitching since 2007 or something like that. He's been around for a while. And, Boston is hitting the ball, very good. And you don't know who's going to hit it. It could be Devers. It could be, Kiko Hernandez hitting the ball. And you don't know. They're unexpected with this team, and that makes them very dangerous right now. Plus, they're in Fenway. And yesterday, for the small time I was on the show yesterday,
talked about the short field.
Yeah, and they're playing at the Cathedral of Boston. This is going into the nobody goes into the Horseshoe and beats Ohio State. It's unheard of, right? It's almost impossible. It's almost unheard of. This is almost the same thing. Especially,
we'll see if they can close out the series at Boston. Keep in mind, tonight and tomorrow, both games being played at, Fenway Stadium before they finish out the final 2 if necessary. So Boston could close it here right now with 2 wins. So
they very well could.
We'll have to wait and see. And obviously the NLCS, we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Game 3 tonight. Game 4 tomorrow. Game 5 after that.
Braves
2-0 series lead to the Braves. They could finish it, these next 2 nights.
They have to stay on point. They have to do what they're there to do, and that's get to the World Series. Last year, they were up 3-1. Don't start celebrating because last year, Dodgers end up coming back and beating them. So just stick to what you need to do. Don't get excited. Just keep playing the game.
All right, Matt, you were on yesterday for the NHL discussion. Who do you think right now your top 5 teams in the NHL, then we'll wrap this show up?
Top 5 teams in the NHL? You got to look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is there. Tampa Bay. I'm not going to go in order here because I think it's still early. I'm just throwing the teams out there that I think that could be there in the end. And you got to look at Pittsburgh. You got to look at Tampa Bay. And, thinking off the top of my head here, 1 second. Toronto's always been there. The Rangers have been a
Carolina.
In Carolina.
How about Columbus
team?
this season, still undefeated?
Yeah.
Mike and I talked about them yesterday. They're always the upset crew.
I was there. I heard it.
Always the upset crew.
Vancouver has a very young squad. They're fast, and they have they're doing pretty good right now. They
1-1-1.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our show for today. Make sure to come back tomorrow as we take a look back at college football games with the unveiling of our college football top 10 as well. So make sure to tune in. Should be lots of fun tomorrow. I think it's just you and I, Matt. I'm not sure if Mike's back for tomorrow's show, as he has been on the last 2 Wednesdays. I think he's off this one. He should be on next Tuesday's show as well. So make sure to tune in tomorrow. Matt and I talking college football all day long, as well as we'll take a look back at what happened with the NBA tonight. But I'm Alec Caberna, Ricky Vaughn. That's Clark Griswold and Matt Morrison from the Casual Sports Podcast signing off here. Power Hour up next on ysnlive.com. See you later.